we look at the meaning of what these numbers here mean. The meaning of these is that this has a lot to do with socialization, people escaping, getting away from people, places, or activities in their life. The second pinnacle has to do with a lot of change and public contact, change or travel would enter the life. And the third pinnacle has to do with financial matters, property, assets, legal matters, and financial attainment, because they're under the 8, which is the Saturn number. The last pinnacle, which is Venus, has to do with personal change. So we're looking at a birthday that brings mixed pinnacles. Now, there's a timing involved. The timing, there's a factor which they call the universal factor, which is 36. And you take the life path where you add up all the numbers and you minus them from 36. So they have a 7 life path. If you add this up, 19, 29, 30, 49, 55. Well, the point is it's a 7 life path, and you take 7 away from the universal factor of 36, and it means that the first pinnacle is 0 to 29 years, and between 29 and 30, you would see a change where all of a sudden change in travel comes into their life. The first part of their life would have to do with a little escapism. It's affected by friends, younger people, siblings, and socialization things. It's the 3. The second pinnacle has to do with change and travel and a lot of public contact, and that would take place for them between 29, 30 years old, because that's when the transition takes place. The third pinnacle is when there's a lot of finances going around, and I think the financial things resolve themselves. And that's between 37, 38 years old, but it runs right up to 46 years old, because first you start with 29, and then you just add 9s to it to determine when the next cycle breaks. For instance, at 29, then we know it's 29 to 37, because it's a 9-year increments. And this actually shows you the turning points of somebody's life. And generally, most people, their whole life turns by the time they're in their 40s, some by the mid-40s, some by the late 40s or early 50s. In this case, the last cycle for this person started like 46, 47 years old and kind of went to the end of life, and that's the personal cycle, or the Venus cycle that they were in. But this is just about pinnacles and the universal factor and how to figure it. But this person has multiple pinnacle changes, and the point is that some people have almost the same number, and even though there's a slice and a change of time, the timing, it basically is more or less the same. But this is a very mixed pinnacle. It goes from 3 to 5 to 8 to 6. So it's a good example of a lot of change in a life. Usually by the time somebody's like 50 years old, they've done it all, they've seen it all in a general way. And these things repeat again in people's lives. It's funny how if one person's affected, let's say, by a Sagittarius or a Pisces, how a Pisces and Sagittarius will affect them again, and so forth. And this is a June, a Gemini, or Virgo, and et cetera, et cetera. But this is a good example of how, with the mixed pinnacle, how there's a lot of change. And this is how we time it. We take the life path, which is adding up the full birthday, minus it from the universal factor, and that's the first cycle, and you just add 9 and 9 and 9 again, and it shows you the time periods where events start breaking. And these are actually turning points of life.